Okay, so let's have a quick chat about steering. Now, this has come up because it comes up quite a lot in the group, but also it's just come up recently with me. So I've started to do some lessons in our automatic, just to keep our hand in and so I can have conversations like I'm having with you guys. So I picked up a young girl, 19, 20 years old, who'd had two instructors before, one in a manual. She didn't really get on very well with that, so she decided to have an automatic and had a lesson, 1 hour, a 2-hour lesson in an automatic. I put a local advert out just to get some pupils, and she came along. So when I picked her up, I asked her about her lessons, but I didn't ask for anything specific and how she was getting on. She'd been out a lot of practice with her mum, her dad, her boyfriend. So I thought, okay, let's go and have a drive and see where we're at, and then we'll go from there. So she lives in sort of a road that's got very tight lefts and rights coming off of it, cars parked on either side, all that sort of stuff. So we came out of where she lives, we turned right, we turned left at the end with a closed junction, then another right and a few lefts, blah, blah, blah. And basically it became very apparent very quickly that she was struggling with steering. So how that sort of showed itself was when she was going around corners, she wasn't straightening up quick enough. She wasn't steering quick enough to go into the corner, so we ended up a bit wide when we went into a junction, for example, then straightening up, not quick enough, so we're aiming towards the curb, so already drifting wide. So let a few junctions go, have a look at it, and then pulled her over. And said, so what, your steering seems a bit laboured, what's happening there? Oh, she said, well, I'm trying to do this push-pull method. I can't do this sort of steering where you don't cross your hands and stuff. When I cross my hands, it's so much easier. I just can't get on with this. So, okay, so do you need to do it that way? She said, oh, yeah, my other instructors were really hot on it, and that's sort of why I gave up, really, because I just couldn't get hold of the steering. I was all over the place, and I think I can drive quite well, but I can't do that steering. So I didn't say anything more than that. I just said, right, let's carry on. Let's go around that block again. This time, just steer however you want to steer. It doesn't matter. Just steer around the corners. Keep the car nice and slow to give yourself time, but just steer around the corners. And she was crossing her hands a bit. She was what I call sidewinding on the side, all that sort of stuff. But the steering was much, much better, and therefore the junctions were much, much better. So the long and short of it is I ended up having a conversation with her about steering, that it doesn't matter how you steer, it doesn't matter if you cross your hands, it doesn't matter where you hold your hands, because she didn't like putting them at quarter to 3, 9, whatever it is. And just let her steer how she wanted to steer and put her hands how she wanted to put them, and it made so much difference automatically. She then found a way that was better than just sidewinding all the time, and she found sort of a way that worked for her, which is a combination of sidewinding, a combination of slight crossed hands at the top, but it wasn't causing her a problem. And straightening up was much better because she was able to straighten up quicker, and that was the problem before. She was trying to do this laboured method, even though she'd had about 30 hours doing it, she just couldn't get the hang of it. And then the other day I was in the test centre chatting to a PDI, and he was saying that one of the hardest things he finds to do is teach push-pull steering, because they struggle with it, blah, blah, blah. And they do. Some do, some don't. So the bottom line of this video is don't teach push-pull steering unless it's working. But I just wouldn't teach it at all. I've done this 34 years now, and I've never, ever taught steering. Let them steer how they're going to steer. To begin with, it's going to be a little bit of a mess, but literally within a couple of minutes in a car park or some lefts and rights, they will sort out a way. If you watch a small child, if you Google now or YouTube Legoland driving school, you'll see the little kids within the first circuit, they're steering in some way and getting around. The one thing they are doing is they're going slowly. So when you teach steering, always teach it slowly, the car going slowly to begin with, and no acceleration of speed while you're steering, then straighten up, then accelerate, and later on they can accelerate and steer, but just layering it up. So don't worry about how they steer, don't worry about where they put their hands on the wheel, and keep it slow for the first few times, or first couple of hours, so they get used to how much to steer and how quickly to steer. The other thing I found is that it's very difficult to change how quickly someone steers. It's just a bit like how people talk. I talk quite fast. I try not to, but I just can't help it. Or people walk fast or walk slow. It's very difficult to change that. So if you've got someone that steers quite slowly, slow the car down more. The slower your car goes, in theory, the quicker the steering is for the distance, if that makes sense. So don't worry about speeding people steering up, slow the car down more, and that will have the same effect. It's much, much easier. I will put under this video a link to where it says in the various publications, the DL1, or DT1, sorry, for the driving test, and for you guys for part 2, the ADI one, where it tells the examiners very simply not to worry about how people steer, as long as it's safe, smooth. and there's another word which escapes my head at the moment. But that's basically, it doesn't matter how they steer and where they hold the wheel. Don't spend lots of time doing that. The danger of spending lots of time doing it because you think, oh, it's a much better way of doing it, it's much safer. It's not safer because they're spending so much time concentrating on that. They don't straighten up in time, they don't see the other obstructions going around them, etc. And the other argument I get is the airbag. The airbag, your steering wheel in front of me here, the airbag will go off. It will, but only normally if you hit something solid, and something solid is a tree, not a house, not a wall. They tend to give way, not another car, at 20 miles an hour or above. If you're steering that much, you're crossing your hands, you're not doing 20 miles an hour. The thing to be very hot on is not having the arm across the airbag while going at speed, like dual carriageway motorways, because if you do hit something, you are going to punch yourself in the head. But at low speeds, the airbag won't deploy and you wouldn't be crossing your hands at high speed. So that argument doesn't sort of hold water really. So try not to be too hot on it. I know a lot of guys stick to it and think, no, that's the way it's got to be done. It doesn't have to be done like that. It's never had to be done like that. It's just one of those things that trainers pass down to instructors. Those instructors become trainers and so on and so forth. It just carries going on. But it's just not necessary, and it's hard work, and it just takes your pupils off the important stuff that they should be doing. Thank you.